What a week, and what a week ahead. Well, let's start with our annual Emily Ehman travelogue. You were burning the candle at both ends this past week, but can you
Yeah.
recap?
Yeah. So I will say this week was probably the hardest week I've had. To be completely candid, it was not an easy week for me. I had two mental breakdowns, so that was great. But we started off at Rutgers. I did Wisconsin Rutgers, which um kind of coming in, Rutgers is a program that's up and coming. They've struggled over the past few years, and Wisconsin's also been somewhat struggling over the last few weeks or so. So honestly, we're like, maybe Rutgers can get a set for the first time ever. They didn't, and Wisconsin thumped them, which, to be honest, I had a 2.5 hour drive that night. So I got home, I got to my hotel in Harrisburg because I was cutting my drive from there to Penn State off. So I wasn't super mad that it was a short match, so I could get out there, drive to Harrisburg, stay the night, and in the morning, drive to Penn State for Penn State, Maryland, which ended up being an actually fun match. Maryland played probably the best 2.5 sets I had seen them play. They took the first set off of Penn State, who was kind of sleeping through the first part of the match, and then they got better every single set and turned it on. So Penn State ended up winning in four, but Maryland really brought it to them. It was actually a pretty fun match. The next day we have Oregon at Penn State, and a lot of hype around this match. Oregon is a team that they beat BYU, but hadn't had necessarily a statement win. And watching them against Ohio State the night before, I mean, they were completely dominant. They leave Ohio State in the morning and fly into State College, had a delay, had to get up early, travel issues, yada, yada. Um, they looked great in practice. They were fired up. The energy was high. And then all of a sudden, once the match started, it was like nothing. They make 30 errors in a three-set match. It was disgusting. Yeah, Oregon really struggled, which was not fun to see. But overall, my takeaway from that stretch of my trip was I have never been more impressed with a player than seeing Izzy Stark in person for the first time. She
Really?
makes your jaw drop. Like, to be honest,
Yeah.
she might be the best setter I've seen so far this season. She's
And when
good.
I saw them at Pittsburgh, of course, she could have set beach balls or hockey pucks that night. It wouldn't have made any difference.
Yeah. It definitely has. I mean, she has great hitters around her, but the sets that she's able to make are insane. I mean, she will take a one-handed set that's way over the net that a lot of people will maybe force, a quick tempo to the middle. She pushes it all the way outside for perfect sets, and her outsides just crush it. But I mean, I was so impressed with her. And to be honest, seeing the difference between how she plays versus Charlie Furbringer at Wisconsin, both are freshmen incoming setters, very different in their styles. Izzy's a really built player. She's very strong. She can make sets that I think Furbringer can't make right now. Um, they're both very creative, and it was, to me, I think Stark had the advantage of the execution was actually there. I think Furbringer still trying to get figure things out a little bit from that standpoint. Obviously because both have good weapons, but I was so impressed with Stark. I interviewed her after the Oregon match, and she comes up and we had some time to kill, and I was like, girl, you are impressive. Like I love watching you play. I mean, there were so many times where she was making sets and I was like falling out of my chair. She's good. She's a national team type kid.
And then you had one more,
Oh yeah. And then and
which
then
was pretty big.
Yeah, I forget. So that match was Friday, and then we fly Saturday to Louisville, and I had Georgia Tech, Louisville, and Georgia Tech's been struggling. They started off the season in a 6-2, and they had one setter that's 5'11", one setter that's 5'7". Their 5'11" hitter, Eloise Suarez, broke her fingers against Florida after they or during that match when they won. And since then, to be honest, it's been pretty downhill for Georgia Tech. They've been running a 5-1 with a 5-7 setter. So anytime she's front row, they just can't score because the other team's just ripping balls down the line. I mean, DeBeer and Looper were like just going right over her, smashing balls in the middle of the court. It was difficult. They switched to a 6-2. It helped a little bit, but Louisville crushes them the first two sets. And this was kind of fun. So in our broadcast, we were on ACC Network, which of course is a family of ESPN. And because Texas Florida went really fast, our match, the third set got bumped to ESPN, which was really fun. So the third set gets bumped to ESPN and actually ended up being a really fun set. Georgia Tech led the entire way. they're up 21-15, and then all of a sudden Louisville turns it on and closes it out in three. It was kind of a wild, epic finish, and not a very good collapse on Georgia Tech's side, from a team that's still trying to figure it out. Their setter still going to be out another 3 weeks, so their schedule lightens up a bit. They had a tough stretch to start ACC play with SMU and Pitt and Louisville. But yeah, I mean, Louisville looks good. I think they're heating up at the right time. Looper and DeBeer are finally clicking. They really struggled for the first probably half of the season, and now every match they've been consistent and are just crushing balls. And when they're on, Louisville's scary.
No, absolutely. And so you've seen Louisville a couple times in the Yum Center,
Yeah.
which is the site of the championships.
Yeah,
Great.
this was in the smaller one, which I also hadn't been to. That place was loud. I left it like, there's 1,000 people there on a Sunday morning. But still, like, I kept having to mess with my audio because it gets loud in there.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you watch Georgia Tech at home in that little
Yeah,
tiny. It's great. Yeah, my
totally.
week was so I pulled the double on Friday. I went to the 1 o'clock first serve Northeastern playing host to William and Mary, and turned out to be a real exciting 5-set match. And I just enjoyed the heck out of it and had a great visit with Lanika Vasquez, the coach at Northeastern, who most importantly played volleyball at Southern Illinois Carbondale,
There you
and
go.
their team was really fun and did a lot of good stuff. Then that night I went to Pitt at
Yeah.
Boston College. And Boston College, I'm thinking to myself, all right, they're making this an interesting first set. How are they going to react in the second set? Can they come back? Well, then they won the first set. And of course, Pitt was
Yeah.
36-0 in sets at that point. The next set was 25-7. And Olivia Babcock, who had 5 aces in the first set, had 5 more in the second. And she was just serving absolute BBs. They were flat near the top of the net, and then they were diving, and the liberos were left in a pile of mush. Boston College tried everything, but I don't think that losing that set to Boston College sets off any bells and you go, oh, Pitt's
Oh,
vulnerable. Boston College played great. Let me tell you, they got a middle named Julia Haggerty, who
yeah.
is not one of the famous Nebraska, Wisconsin Haggerty families, but from Chicago. She's a Californian. She leads the nation in blocks at over 2, like 2.1. She's
Yeah.
the real deal. And yesterday she went 10 kills, 1 error, and 16 swings against SMU. Before SMU, these were the warm-ups that Boston College wore because it was their pink game. And Jason Kennedy, thank you, hooked me up. And nice pregame ceremony that was very warm and well done. And then another really good match by BC, leading the league in moral victories, but takes SMU to 5. The other side of
Yeah.
it, SMU's cool. Nothing bothers SMU.
Yeah.
They don't over celebrate. They don't get down. They just look for is it Chimay? Is that how she pronounces it?
Yeah, Shmay.
And Tabron, and they just jump up and destroy the ball. And
Yeah, I gotta go watch those two matches back because I have Pitt SMU on Wednesday. And I'm excited. I mean, SMU is a program that obviously got put on the map from that huge win over Nebraska. But since then, they've been steadily getting wins, over Baylor, over GT. They're a good team right now, and I'm excited. Okay, from your perspective, because I haven't seen Pitt live, and I think they're the only, I guess aside from Kansas, they're the only team that I haven't seen live, of really the top teams. Does Pitt have a weakness right now?
no,
I didn't.
uh,
That's what I
no.
think.
So it's funny you say that because I talked to Dan Fisher, the coach, the other day, and we talked about it. I said, because I brought this up in 2017, I think. Was that the last year Nebraska won?
Yeah.
2017, 2018. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
17.
after the season, John Cook asked me, he said, you told me early that we were going to win. And he goes, why did you say that? And I said, because you were the least flawed team in the nation. And this was about that year. And so I always look at it in such a way, like who's got the least flaws?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, when you look at them from us looking in, there is none. They're
Yeah.
super good at every position in every rotation. So I said to Dan, I said, we were talking and we brought that up. And I said, do you have a rotation that you think is a problem? And he goes, well, we actually have one that we're not doing as well at, but we can't figure out why. And I was like, well, everybody else, nobody else can either, obviously.
Yeah.
They're just, I mean, Stafford didn't play the first set. And, that was the set they lost. And she's, obviously a National Player of the Year candidate. Anybody who doesn't think Olivia Babcock is a National Player of the Year candidate.
If
Rachel
they don't think
Fairbanks,
she is the national player of the year, you're crazy.
yeah, Rachel Fairbanks is dinged up right now. Her leg, she one time she had to shake it off, but she didn't come out. So I don't know what injury she has. She's wearing one of those WNBA leg sleeves,
Uh,
but she's just so good. They're just doing it in every possible way. But so I've seen them twice now. I saw them, that the time I saw them was when they crushed Penn State, and then
yeah.
the last the middle two sets, Boston College, their credit, Boston College is really scrappy and extremely well coached, and not just because Jason Kennedy gave me the T-shirt. They,
But that helps.
but talk about SMU. SMU this week does a home and home with Pitt, and then has Stanford. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot that's going to shake out over those three matches.
Well, and again, I mean, this is a SMU team that has shown that they can upset other programs. I wouldn't be surprised to see them. I don't know if they have enough to beat Pitt, but Stanford, I can definitely see them. Just because SMU's offense is so good and Stanford has really struggled defensively, both in the front court and pretty much in the back court because the block's non-existent, so the back court can't dig anything. So honestly, I would not be surprised to see SMU get that win over Stanford. That's next week, mid next week.
Yeah, I think maybe next Wednesday. I don't know. Week to
Yeah,
win. They go. I know that that's who they've got coming up, but they're
yeah.
extremely well coached too. How do you Friday night? There were 10 reverse sweeps. It
Yeah.
used to be like, oh, there'd be one, but I mean, of course, the biggest one was USC down 11-5 in the fifth against Michigan.
Well, and it's like, 1 a.m. at that point.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, I just know this because I looked it up later. But I mean,
I actually was still up because I had to drive that night, and I I was following the game for the first two sets, and I was like, oh God, they're gonna lose. And then I finally get where I'm going, and I turn the match on in the fifth set, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go.
no wonder
Uh,
you were tired because you didn't go to sleep and you stayed up too late watching volleyball. But how our,
I
our, our
know.
friend Jenny Hazelwood in Southern Miss, they're down 23-17 in the third after losing
Ooh,
the first two sets, win the set 31-29,
let's go, Jenny.
sweep against Arkansas State. I mean, there's just been so many of them. And then
Yeah.
even the next day, um, on Saturday, K-State, Iowa State did it to Iowa State, Davidson to George Mason, Eastern Michigan to Miami, and Murray State to visiting. That's 14 reverse sweeps in 2 days.
That's insane.
It is, and some big numbers. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to watch Evansville play, but they got an outside hitter named Julia Cardona. Uh,
Yeah.
she's from Argentina. Was the Valley Player of the Year last year. She can light it up. She had 31, but
Yeah.
a lot of big numbers. Topical as we are doing this. Monday morning, the hurricane is en route to Florida. It looks like it's going to broadside it from the west, and there's already cancellations. So I went through real quick just to see. So South Florida's on the road. They go to Wichita State and Tulsa Friday and Sunday. I hope they're already gone. If you haven't evacuated Florida now, stop watching this.
When exactly is it hitting, now or tomorrow?
Probably Wednesday.
Okay.
So I think what they're expecting is let's see, yeah, probably Wednesday evening, and they're projecting 125 miles an hour, and that's things go well, right? So,
Mm.
but anyway, so that's South Florida. Florida State is also on the road. Florida State is
No, Florida State's
Florida
home
State
on Friday.
home for Louisville Friday. I would say that's very iffy at this point, although Tallahassee might be out of the way of that. Louisville could get to Tallahassee, and then they're home for
Yeah.
Notre Dame. UCF has already canceled Wednesday's match against Colorado. It's supposed to be home Friday for Iowa State. I would say highly unlikely. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, uh, Florida A&M in the SWAC is home in Tallahassee for Bethune-Cookman and Southern on Wednesday, Sunday. Wednesday could be shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
we'll see.
haven't seen any other updates yet, but that's gonna just mess up those
Yeah.
schedule. It's just brutal.
Oh, thinking of everyone down there.
Yeah, so here's another one. I was looking at some standings out of curiosity. So oh, hey, this is random, but can I throw this out there because there's just not enough league to go around not to cover more than NCAA Division One. But Juniata now has the second longest win streak in NCAA history. They won
Yeah.
75 matches in a row. Heather Pavlik is the coach there. Mark Pavlik, her husband, is the coach at Penn State, and the longest. They're D2,
Hmm.
but and Penn State has the current all-time record of 109 wins in a row from 2007 to 2017. This team has won 76 in a row. So,
Uh,
Juniata fans and Heather, I will try to do my best to pay more attention and get you some more love. But that is fantastic. Uh,
Love that. All
that
right,
is
let's look at the week ahead. We got some fun ones.
Okay, yeah. And I just real quick, I looked at the standings.
Oh
Um, there are four teams still unbeaten in the ACC. Pitt 4-0, North Carolina 5-0, Louisville and SMU are both 4-0. I am giving North Carolina love. I'm the one giving them the votes in the volleyball mag.
I wondered who did that.
Yeah, it's me because hey,
Okay.
you're 13-1, 5-0, and
Who have they beat?
nobody. But it doesn't matter. It's fair. They got a 14 RPI,
I hate you.
yeah, and so and hey, I even said in my comments, South Dakota State's 14-0. Another couple of weeks, if they're still unbeaten, they're going to get some number 16 love. Only one Big 12 team is still unbeaten in conference play. One, Kansas at 3-0.
Yeah.
In the Big 10, there are only two, Nebraska and Penn State.
Yep.
And in the SEC, there's only two. Texas is now 4-0, and Texas did a number on Florida yesterday, and
Yeah.
Arkansas is 3-0.
So my match is going on during that. What the heck happened?
I don't know. I was at BC.
Oh yeah.
And
Perfect.
I didn't go, and I just regurgitated what was in the box score in the roundup. But yeah,
Yeah.
so you sent me that. Let me see.
Yeah, so Wednesday, well, I'm at SMU and Pitt, which I'm excited about, but also Wednesday night, which I think is going to be a really good match, USC at Oregon. USC just took down Minnesota in 5 last Saturday, and I think these are two teams. USC kind of needs this win just to again establish himself, get another statement win. Oregon really needs a bounce back and to show that they're actually a top program. Because this win might really start dipping Oregon down. Because again, they only have a win over BYU, so it's like, are they actually legit? This is a good test for kind of both. I'm excited to watch that one.
uh, Thursday, Baylor at BYU, which is a really big match for both teams. They both
Yeah.
desperately need it, right?
Yep.
And then hey, Purdue, how about Dave Shondell? Now the
Yeah.
biggest coach, number 470. The previous record was 479 for a team that or program that is just always knocking on the door. And it's a very, very likable team this year. I mean, if you got to like the way they play and who they are and what they do. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's a really, really good team.
I mean, when you have Eva Hudson and Chloe Chacoin, it's game over. It's so fun to watch.
Yeah, and so many of, I mean, they got good teammates. I mean, Raven
Yeah.
Colvin won her.
Colvin's I mean, we talked about Colvin, I think it was last week or the week before, but I mean, one of, if not the best all around middle.
But Friday, so you got Purdue at Nebraska
Mhm.
and Louisville at Florida State, maybe. And that's a big Friday. And then Saturday, so you have SMU at Pitt on Wednesday, not Pitt at SMU.
Yes, I have Wednesday, and then Saturday I have Maryland at Minnesota. So not the biggest match, but
yeah, somebody was asking me again yesterday about best fans and places to watch. And I said that the fan base at Minnesota is just so knowledgeable and just really good. But yeah, Saturday, Pitt at SMU and TCU at BYU. BYU, tough week. You got
tough week.
two Texas teams coming in.
And BYU in need of some wins too.
Ryan McGuire, the coach at Baylor, lost his entire coaching staff a couple of years ago, and they all got jobs. And two of them were Sam Erger, who went to SMU, and has obviously turned that program around in a big way. They're doing wonderful things. And Jason at TCU has done a fantastic job too there, and they're legit. Melanie Parr is we say this every week, crazy. Sunday, definitely a match that's a maybe. Louisville at Miami. I mean, those Florida matches with the Storm, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Ooh, Texas at Kentucky. Is this the first time they're going to play since the championship?
It's
Since the COVID year? I wonder.
I don't know, but that feels right.
And then
Although I would be surprised because I feel like Kentucky, every non-con plays everyone.
By the way, North Carolina beat Michigan, gave Syracuse its first loss, beat Boston College. That counts for something because Boston College is good. But no, in answer to your question, no big time quality wins.
It's okay.
Yeah, in fact, let me look real quick. North Carolina versus the top 25, 0-0, top 50, 1-0. So top 100.
Official. Do you have any idea when official RPI comes out? Because everyone keeps saying, "Oh, it's coming out soon," and I haven't seen
4-1 against the top 100. Nothing like I mean, Nebraska's 10-1 against the top 100.
Yeah, and I saw someone, maybe it was two people in our poll, make a case for Nebraska at 1. I don't hate that. They've played a much more rigorous schedule than Pitt has and still getting wins. Of course, they had that lost to SMU, but as we're finding out, SMU is a really good team. But I still agree that Pitt's, I don't want to say untouchable, but they look well beyond everyone right now. To be honest, I would be very surprised if Pitt doesn't run the table in ACC play, at least right now.
Yeah, I'm always I can't say that because conference play is just hard. It's just hard and
Yeah.
it's a road to wit losing that that set against Boston College. But
Well, the biggest thing for them, it sounds like staying healthy. As long as they can stay healthy.
so you're only going to call 2 matches this week, like a normal
Yeah.
person instead of
Yeah.
slacker, just
I,
taking.
I have all this time on my hands. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? No, it's good. Honestly, again, last week, to be completely candid, it just took years off of my life. For matches that also just like weren't that exciting, which, it is what
I'm
it
just
is.
glad I knew you when you were young and strong. So just real quick, our poll is out. It's Volleyball Mag, Super 16.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Nebraska, Penn State, Louisville. Creighton made a jump over Stanford. They traded places, so Creighton up to 5. Uh, and then Texas, Kansas, Purdue, Wisconsin, Oregon, and then a tie for 12th, Kentucky and Arizona State, tie for 14th with SMU and Minnesota, and then USC big jump and good for USC.
Yeah, that was interesting to me because I was going back and forth between Baylor and TCU for a while at my 16. And I ended up going with Baylor, and I don't really remember why, but I did. Whatever, I did. And I'm surprised USC has one big win. It's over Minnesota. Baylor and TCU have a win over Minnesota, and they also have one more ranked win. So that made no sense to me. But hey, what do I know?
All right, well, go Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. She's Emily Ehman. I'm Lee Feinswog, and I thank you for watching and putting up with us once again.